Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie Schneiderite. Richie, we're here to talk some more basketball. Two new portal entries from Rutgers basketball team. Oskar Palmquist entered the portal on Friday, and Dean Reiber entered the portal last night. Wouldn't say either of these are a surprise. We're just kind of waiting for the announcements to come. Tell us a little bit about what we're losing in these two guys. Let's start with Oskar.
Yeah, so Oskar, honestly, I thought he could have been like a decent, like down the bench type of guy, someone that just end of the rotation, someone that you could just kind of throw in for a couple minutes, maybe hit a three, maybe play some decent defense. But end of the day, you got to replace these guys. You gotta get more talent in here, and especially if more talent wants to come, which it sounds like. A ton of transfer portal dudes are showing interest. I hate to say it, at the end of the day, you just got to change up the roster a little bit. You went from no transfers to 3 right now. And then Dean Reiber's done about the best he could. It doesn't seem like he really developed past this season. Woolfolk started to take his role as backup center. He's like a tweener between a 4 and 5 at the Big Ten level. He's like kind of too slow to guard 4s, but he's not big enough to guard 5s. So there's a weird he's in a weird role right now. I think dropping down a level and playing the 5 or like a stretch type 5 at a different at a low major or mid major type school might be beneficial to him. I think he could actually be a decent player at those levels. But yeah, no, like I said, there's so many guys that are showing interest in Rutgers via the portal that you almost, in order to upgrade the team, you have to upgrade the talent. And end of the day, that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah, so if you just kind of look back, Oskar, this is his 4th year in the program. He walked on senior night. He was a kid, came from Sweden. He was, known as a sharpshooter. He's a lefty. I just don't think he really developed much in his game outside of being able to shoot. And I think, that was his fatal flaw. If you look at this season, I mean, the guy played 26 minutes in the first 21 games of the season. He started to, I think Pike wanted to get him some minutes when his parents came to see him, starting with that Minnesota game. And he played really well. Like if you look at his stat line from that game, he played 16 minutes. Obviously it's in a blowout. He was 3 or 4 from 3. He had his career high in points that night with 13. And then, Milwaukee goes down and he gave us some good minutes against Michigan State as well. But he ended up playing 165 minutes over the last, quarter of the season. Some of the games that he stepped up in, we really needed him. He played pretty well against Indiana in limited minutes. He gave us some good minutes against Penn State. I'd say 2 of those dagger threes he hit against Penn State were, some of the points that pushed us over the edge. So I think he hit both those in the second half. He was a guy that was beloved in the locker room from the sounds of it. But ultimately, we've said it before, like there's moments where you kind of look yourself in the mirror as a program and understand, like, I love keeping my guys around. I love developing guys for 4 or 5 years, but that's not the way that college basketball is played anymore. I saw a tweet that it came out. I don't know if it was, this was between the Elite 8 games, and of the 35 players who were on starting rosters who had made it into the Elite 8, 19 of them were transfers, 16 of them were seniors, only 1 was a freshman. So like, this is an example, like you got to build your program largely through transfers now if you want to have a successful program.
Yeah, no, for sure. So now, interestingly enough about Oskar, I did learn that he's technically in the portal, correct, but it's kind of just this field, a little bit of interest, but it sounds like he's going to go back home to Sweden. The national team does want him to come play for them again. I know he played for their under 18 or under 16, whatever it was, team, and he did pretty good there. So he's going to try out for the Sweden national team again, and it kind of wouldn't shock me if he made it. Like, he could be that end of the rotation type player for them. I don't know how good Sweden is, so maybe he could be a little bit better than that. But yeah, it does sound like he's going to go back home to Sweden. And in terms of transfer portal, he's probably done with college basketball, if I had to guess. But you kind of just throw your name out there like most guys are. Like, for example, Joe Girard declared for the draft, but he's also throwing his name in the portal. It's just like, just see what kind of interest you get. Maybe you get more interest than you think. You're a 1-year player, and it's just kind of a stopgap for certain colleges. And it's like, hey, we might need a 4 that could shoot or a 3 that could shoot. Just bring him in for a year. Worst comes to worst, he doesn't work out, and he's an end of the bench player. Best case scenario, he's a full-fledged starter for you for an entire season.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Sweden has any NBA players on their national team. So, I mean, that bodes well for him in terms of his chances of making it. But it's hard because you don't want to say anything too negative about these guys. They gave so much to the program, and I mean, you really do wish them well. I hope he has a lot of success in whatever he chooses to do after he leaves Rutgers. But he's got 2 years of eligibility if he wants to use them. Because he redshirted his first year. The second year was the COVID year.
You're right.
So he's got 2 years. And same thing with Dean. Dean played his freshman year. And Dean, I mean, there was some like really bright moments for him early in his career. I don't know if you remember this, but his freshman year, I think it was like probably game like 12 or 13. We played Iowa. This is back when they had Luka Garza. And Cliff and Miles both got into foul trouble. And Dean Reiber stepped in and he played lockdown defense on like 3 consecutive possessions against Luka Garza because they were just putting everything through Luka against us. And he locked him up for like 3 straight possessions. I think he had a block against him, a steal against him. And that really felt like, we got something here. He could be, he also, he got the nickname of Threeber because he, hit knockdown open threes. I feel like that skill, I don't know if you've lost confidence, but it felt like that really never developed. I think that's kind of the key with both these guys. It felt like for whatever reason, the development stalled on both of them. And I mean, when you're a developmental program, that has to be a consistent development for these guys in order to succeed.
I'll be honest. I don't think it's more development wise. I think it's more just they kind of peaked a little bit. Like, I don't think there was much more they could really do there. Like, I think we kind of knew what their ceilings were out of high school. And this is about right. Like a contributor at the high major level or a starter at the mid major level. And I'm not bad mouthing them by any means. It's just, that's kind of what their potential was out of high school. And it's kind of what they are. So, it's time to move on. Time to get some open scholarships, and technically, I think there's 3 if you count Cliff right now. We'll see what happens there because they were one. So they lost 3 guys. They lost Jalen Miller too, obviously, but they were 1 over already in scholarship counts. So now it really depends on what Cliff does, and that's where it's going to get interesting. So I don't want to segue into portal talk, but we kind of just did.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing on Oskar because the guy didn't play in a single game in all of January. And then he stepped up and started playing once Mag got hurt, basically. And he gave, some really good minutes. So it's not easy to keep your confidence high. And Gio talked about this when we were talking to him, that, when you see a guy like Oskar who's still staying positive, still putting in the work, and still giving full effort in practice and being positive, it's so valuable to the younger guys who are here new and they're frustrated because they're not playing a lot. You got to imagine like Derek Simpson probably wasn't very happy with his role for a lot of the season, but seeing a guy like Oskar remaining positive and putting in effort and, being whatever they need on the team, whether that be like, a scout team guy who's emulating another player on another team that they're playing that week, or, whatever you need to do for the team, that's so valuable. So I don't want to minimize their contributions just because they didn't, score a lot of points or give us a lot of minutes, because sounds like they were a valuable member of the team, regardless of whether they played a lot or not. So I just want to reiterate that because that can get lost, that these kids were, teammates and human beings as well, and not just, guys playing on TV, 40 minutes a night for us.
Yeah, it's also culture, end of the day. Like, and Pike's very big on culture. You got to instill a good culture in order to have a good program. We've seen teams that add super talented players. Look at UNC, for example. Shitty culture this year, and they went from preseason number 1 to not even close to making the tournament. Now Caleb Love's transferring. Now Baycott's coming back, and people are pissed about it at UNC, and it's like, Jesus, what? Dude, that man was just in the finals a year ago.
Yeah, because I think like a program like UNC is probably telling their recruits, like, you could come in, be the big man, you could start as a freshman. Baycott, no way he's coming back. He's going to the NBA. Like, that's a first-round pick right there. And then when they do come back, it's like, Coach, I thought I was going to start this year. You told me I was going to start, and now I'm playing behind a fifth-year senior. This isn't what I signed up for.
It's kind of insane how this has all kind of worked out for them, but it's all about culture. And those 2 guys, 3 guys, I'll even throw Jalen Miller in there, are just straight up culture guys. They didn't complain too much about minutes. They didn't say anything bad about the program. They love Pike. Pike's going to do right by them and try to help them find the best school for them and the best fit for them going forward. I know obviously Dean just entered, so I'm not sure how much interest he has. Oskar just entered, so I'm not sure how much interest he has, but we do know that it was reported today actually, that Jalen Miller's got Colgate, Robert Morris, Chattanooga, Vermont, Loyola Maryland, Wagner, Niagara, UMass Lowell, Penn, Binghamton, Howard, Akron. Like he's got options.
Yep.
So he's and if he's got that many options, I assume Dean and Oskar are probably gonna have similar options, and it's gonna be interesting to see where they end up. And I think Rutgers fans are so fond of what these guys have done and these culture changers, because I do include them as part of that group. And they're probably going to follow them no matter where they go, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. You tried to transition to the transfer portal. Let's just do it. So there's a few guys who we talked about in the past who it sounds like Rutgers is probably out on, and it's because they're probably ended up elsewhere. Let's start with Nick Timberlake. It sounds like he is leaning elsewhere because there's some bags being thrown at him. St. John's.
Yeah, that's part of the reason. St. John's going to be a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of just hinted at it. I'll tell you now, Patino's just going to be. He's got juice. Like I hate to say it, he's going to be. Now they're going to recruit different kids. I think they're going to go more New York City area. Whereas, interestingly enough, Rutgers doesn't tap into that much. And I don't know the exact reasoning behind it. Most of the kids there aren't like local. They're probably coming in as transfers from other schools. But that's kind of New Jersey too, for the most part. But that's when you just go to Georgia and you just snag a top 5 player and then no one questions you.
Yeah, I think basketball is so much different than football because you don't need many players. You need, 12, 13 guys.
Yeah.
Football, you need 85. So if your roster composition is, 2 guys from New Jersey and 10 guys from international and all over the country, it's not really a huge deal.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter really. But in terms of other portal dudes, I know Jameel Reynolds was one they were looking at, but again, you kind of got to wait and see what Cliff does. Until we know what Cliff does, you can't recruit a big man because you can't sell him playing time. Now maybe one of those like 2-year guys or multi-year guys, like I'm trying to think who left on this list. Actually, Reynolds is one of those. It seemed, interestingly enough, it does seem like every single big man they've been in contact with, whether it's Cohen, Jones, Hugley, Reynolds, Mustafa, they all have 2 years left. So I think it's kind of a situation where I think Cliff's coming back, and you got to try to convince one of these guys, like, hey, man, you're still going to get like 15 to 20 minutes a game because Cliff's going to be in foul trouble because it's just so it happens with big men. We can develop you year 1, and then year 2, you're thrusted into the fire. You're going into the Big Ten, which is the big boy basketball for big men like that. There's no other league that will play through their center.
Yep.
Is it good? That's to be determined, but yeah. So I think those are a couple names. You said Timberlake. I think Timberlake's out already, from what I was told.
Yep.
They do need a guard. I don't know where else they look. The Coppin State guy, Nenda Tark, is one to keep a close eye on. Taron Armstrong, who's recently ranked by One Service as the number 1 transfer portal guy, which I'll just say it, I don't agree with, but he's a good player, phenomenal player. But number 1, I don't know. But interestingly, Rutgers is one of his only 2 offers out of high school, and Cal Baptist, where he ended up, was the other one. So we'll see what's happening there. They just I just added TJ Bamba to the list. He's a Washington State, I believe.
Yep.
He's a big man. He's going to be wanted by everyone in the country.
He's not a big man.
Is he?
He's a guard.
Oh, okay. I don't know much about him then. I take it back. 16 points a game, so he's going to be wanted by everybody.
Yep, and he's originally a kid from the Bronx too.
Yeah, I just read that. Abraham Lincoln High School, which has produced quite a few big name prospects over the years. But he did move to Denver, Colorado, right before to finish his high school career, I think. So yeah, I mean it's going to be tough, and most of these kids, like from what I'm being told, it's just here's your money, come play for us. Here's your money, come play for us. And I know people are like, I had someone ask me yesterday, they're like, why do none of the donors want to step up for NIL? And I'm like, they did. That's the thing. Like Rutgers doesn't have a huge donor base. Like it's tough, and you need everyone together collectively. See what I did there? To step up together and form a foundation or collective to get these guys. And it's not like there's anything out there called like the Knights of the Raritan or anything like that could help. Oh wait, there is. So yeah, I mean, end of the day, they're not getting anyone without money. Like that's just how the portal works. Like you need money.
Yep.
So That's all I got on that front.
Well, there's another recent addition, somebody who just entered the portal who Rutgers is showing interest in. Essam Mustafa. He's originally from Cairo, Egypt, but he played his high school basketball at Long Island Lutheran High School. He's got 2 years of eligibility. He's a 6'9", 250-pound center. In 2023, averaged 12.4 points per game, 10 rebounds a game, and he shot 55% from the field and 67% from the line. You've spoken to him. What are you hearing about this kid?
I just spoke to him yesterday, wherever he entered, and it came out that Rutgers was showing interest. He kind of just told me, he's like, it's still early. I just got in portal. I don't know what I'm doing yet. Like, I have nothing planned. It's not one of those situations where it's like, I already know where I'm going. I'm like, I knew where I was going before I entered portal, but now I'm in. So now I can tell you, like, no. So yeah, Rutgers is early interest in him. We'll see what happens there. They're going to be showing interest in so many dudes, and they're just going to try to. It seems like they want a big man with a multi-year big man. They need a 4 really bad, because even though Malat Mag is a starter at 4, he's probably not back till December. Hyatt can't play the 4 anymore. I'll just straight up say it. He's got to play the 3 or 2. I know it's positionless technically, so he can be a big guard, but you got to bump him down a little bit. He can't. He's been struggling, but I do think he ends up staying too, for what it's worth. I know we didn't mention him before, but Mustafa's got a ton of interest, so we'll kind of just wait and see. Maybe you gotta kind of wait and see if someone throws a bag. To be honest, that's how it's. Someone throws a bag, it's like, all right, well, we'll talk to you maybe next year when you enter the portal. Like,
yeah, and I mean, it's still early in relative terms. You can enter the portal up until May 13th or May 11th, one of those two. I think it was May 11th. So the portal has only been open for 2 weeks. So there's still plenty of time for guys to enter. A lot of the guys who had the preordained situations are already in the portal. There's over 1,000 kids in the portal right now. I expect that number to probably double. Rutgers is going to be selective, but I do think they'll land at least 2 guys. But it's just you gotta be patient, let the process play itself out, because if not, you end up taking guys who don't really fit what you're trying to do.
Yeah. It's clear what they want. They want a guard, they want a big man, and they probably want a power forward as well, or wing type, whatever you want to call that. So
yeah, one commitment from a guy that we were showing interest in, Dame Adelakun from Dartmouth, committed to Loyola Chicago. Loyola Chicago is a great academic school, so it makes sense for an Ivy kid to go there. They've also had a ton of success on the court. They've made a Final Four, and I think they had a Sweet 16 appearance additionally. So they're a good program. So kind of fits perfectly for him.
You know what else they have?
They got
money.
They got money.
Well, they got Sister Jean too. But more importantly, they have money. I don't know if Sister Jean's just hiding a bag somewhere or something, but they have money from what I was told. Like, I didn't expect them, of all people, to have money, but they got it. See, that's the crazy thing, is like most of these programs that don't have football are just throwing bags at basketball. And it's like, instead of like just like the high majors, like football, you hear Miami, Texas A&M, blah, 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 like Ole Miss, Bama. They all throw money. No, Bama, Nick Saban would never. But in terms of hoops, everyone's got it. Like, these random ass mid majors are throwing bags of money, and it's like, what? That school has money? Like, it's like, yeah, no, they have donors. Like, it's crazy.
And that's why when you look at a guy like Ed Cooley, who goes from Providence, which is his alma mater, he grew up in Providence, going to Georgetown, doesn't really make sense on the surface.
Stabbed him in the back.
He did. It was a bit of a scummy move. But when you look at it, Georgetown is a very, very affluent university. They have a ton of very, very wealthy donors, and they have one sport that they care about, and that is basketball. They're very successful in the past. So that's a program that could very easily be turned around with competent coaching, which, sorry for Knicks fans out there, but Patrick Ewing was not even in the universe of competency there. So getting a guy who knows what he's doing in that area with the donor support that he's probably going to have is that's a sleeping giant, and sleeping giant in the sense that they've been asleep for about a decade, not that they've been asleep for 50 years like some programs.
Yikes.
Let's hit on one more thing before we sign off. There was some speculation that we might be losing an assistant coach to Temple possibly.
Ooh. Yes.
So what is some news about the Carl Hobbs front?
So I posted on the message board, so you guys all get it first. I don't want to do a disservice to our message board guys and just leak shit on the pod. But so it's been on there for quite some time now, I think. We've been on top of this Karl Hobbs thing for a while. He was named one of the, I want to say 4 or 5 finalists the other day. It's official. He is out of Temple. He's done. He's not going to Temple anymore. And it explains a little bit of why he interviewed for Manhattan on Monday. So yeah, he interviewed for Manhattan. It seems like there's still a chance that he leaves. I know a lot of people within the program are thinking he leaves no matter what. I do think he gets a head coaching job somewhere. There's a lot of openings still. There's a lot of lower openings. For him to go to Manhattan kind of tells me he wants one more shot at a head coaching job, number one. Number two, Pike might have an assistant, like kind of not lined up, but someone that like they want to change some stuff there. It's like the changing of the old guard to the new guard, and that's what kind of happening. You lost 3 portal guys. Mulcahy might not be coming back. Who knows what Cliff's going to do? And you could have 5 new players, a new coach, new assistant coach. So it is a whole switch up this year for Rutgers basketball, but it does sound like Temple is not going to hire him. They're going to go somewhere else, whether that be Adam Fisher from Penn State or it sounds like one of the Missouri assistants is in there too. But yeah, so that's all we got on Karl Hobbs for the moment.
Yeah, it sounds like he wants one more crack at being a head guy before he's retiring. So good luck to Karl Hobbs, and if he's back, that'd be great too because he's been with Pike for a long time at multiple stops. So obviously Pike trusts him a lot. But I don't think it would hurt to have some new blood at the same time. So I think it's not a bad situation either way for Rutgers. Football is obviously starting spring practice today. You guys will be at practice and talking to the coaching staff. I believe Schiano speaks today, and players and assistant coaches speak throughout the week.
Correct. Oh, so it's Schiano today, some players today, and then it like alternates. So like we'll get. Who is it on Thursday? Thursday's Kirk Soraka and quarterbacks. Yeah. Yep. And then Saturday will be defensive coordinator Joe Harris-Simiak, and I'm assuming probably DBs just because he doesn't really have another position he coaches, but or maybe it might just be various defensive players. So we'll kind of wait and see what happens there. But it's definitely going to be fun. Spring ball's here. Let's try to build some excitement for a change. And it's going to be tough because you can only say and watch so much, but if you guys have any requests or if you're a member of the boards, we already Chris put out a thread yesterday. Spring practice questions request. If you have any questions for any of the guys specifically, any requests of who you want us to reach out to, if you have questions for Greg today, you could probably submit them in YouTube too, comments, and I could probably look through them. Don't ask anything outrageous. Don't be like, Greg, why didn't you hire an OC immediately? Like, yeah. Well, what about portal linemen? Like we've asked him multiple times about portal linemen, portal this, portal that. I'm going to tell you word for word his response. If they can help our team, we will add them or something like that along those lines. Like it's nothing different. They're not adding a quarterback, so get that one out of your heads. I already saw 4 posts that say, ask them about adding a quarterback. They're not adding one. It's Gavin Wimsatt. I hate to tell you. And ride or die. And it's leaning this way right now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so we're going to have a football dedicated pod probably tomorrow morning, going over first day of spring practice, what was said by the players, what was said by Coach Schiano, and then probably have another one. Chop. Have another one later in the week to go over what the assistant coaches said. But once again, we want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you to all the people who went and rated and reviewed.
Now do it again.
There was a noticeable bump of ratings over the last couple weeks, so we really do appreciate it. It helps grow the podcast. It helps us get better interviews because more people will be aware of the pod. Just opens up doors that we have a lot of ideas for how to grow the podcast and do bigger and better things. So thank you if you have rated and reviewed. And if you haven't, you're a terrible, terrible fan, and you should feel bad. And you should do it immediately after listening to this podcast. You should rate, review, and subscribe. But for me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Signing off.